Shalom, everyone. Shalom, dear friends, and welcome to Finding Shalom, and welcome to our Acts series. We are on Acts 24. Am I correct? Yes. Acts 24. But before we open up and see what's happening to Paul, I want to ask all of you guys a question. You know, my famous questions. So, since Paul is on trial for something he really didn't do, I wanted to ask you guys, have you guys ever been in trouble for something that you didn't do?
I'm going to start it off. I get in trouble all the time, still. And growing up, I got in trouble for stuff that I did. So I got nothing that I didn't do that I got in trouble for. So next.
You did everything? You did it.
Yeah.
You did it all.
Yeah, someone said, he threw that baseball, broke my window.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't have any brothers or sisters, so you can't blame anybody else if I'm the only child. So
Yeah.
Wasn't there other neighborhood kids?
no, I went clear down the block and down the street to my friend's house. Yeah, I only had a few friends growing up, but
Well, when I was in college, junior college, felt more like high school. I guess I did not completely understand the directions in shorthand class, and I was saying something to someone, and the teacher thought I was asking for answers, I guess.
oh no.
And she yelled at me and gave me an F, and I was like,
Oh, man. That's
I
not
was
fair.
in college.
That is true. Instantly, I went to high school in my mind. Yeah, that's
and I'm like, I'm out of here.
that is funny. Maybe she was a high school teacher before.
Oh, I don't know. I was just like, yeah. She
Wow.
wouldn't even give me an opportunity to explain, so I was like,
Or defend yourself or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
no. I was just like, whatever.
Aw. Well, I'm sorry. Well, what about you, Sarah? Do you have any hidden secrets?
I do. Well, yeah. I was the kid in the middle house, and there was the two naughty girls down the street. They were sisters. I won't name them, but I still remember their names. And then there was Good Larry. He was my friend.
Good Larry.
We hung out all the time. His dad taught me how to tie my shoes. I still remember
Aw.
that. And then there was the really good girls, and they didn't really play with any of us very much. But they had their hair curled for some special event that their family was going to, and we all played in the neighborhood park, and there was a sandbox there. And some girls threw sand in their hair, and I got in trouble for it because I used to play with the naughty girls.
Oh.
Well, I didn't get in trouble. I got blamed for it because I used to play kind of with everybody, and I was known to be with the naughty girls sometimes. But my mother must have had faith in me because I don't remember ever getting in trouble for that. I did not do that. I wouldn't do that.
I didn't do it, but did it devastate you a little bit?
Well, yeah, I still remember it, and I'm 54.
That was
Oh,
another
boy.
good one.
Oh, I want to hear.
My very first job, I was working at Burger Chef. And I think I'd only been there for like a week or so, but there was only two of us on duty. And the other person was a mean girl,
Oh no.
because she was mean
Oh, no.
she was mean in high school too.
Watch those mean, naughty girls.
And two of her friends had come into the restaurant and came behind the counter, and they were playing with one of the cash registers, one of the ones that didn't have any money in it. They were just, playing and ringing and doing all that stuff. Well, the next day I got to work, and the boss called me into his office and told me he had to let me go because I used up all that cash register tape, and it was real expensive. And I'm like, ew, I did not do that.
Oh, no.
And he says, he goes, I think probably you didn't, but the higher up said we had to let you go. And I said, you need to talk to Janet about that, because I did not do that.
That's
and I
not
won't do it.
fair.
I know. And so it was,
Aw.
and he goes, I know you didn't. He goes, So if you need a reference, you can have them call me personally.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Oh man, you lost it. That's not even just getting in trouble. That's like losing a job.
My very first job.
Oh,
Oh, no.
my gosh.
Well,
Oh,
that's a ridiculous reason to let somebody go because of register tape.
Yeah.
I know there had to be some other stuff behind it because
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, well, this is too weird.
Yeah. That was too convenient.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Oh wow. Okay, mine. Let's go all the way back to me being a kindergartner, and I was a shy little kindergartner. And in my house, we didn't use foul language. I didn't even know what foul language was, and so I was very innocent. And we were learning how to rhyme in class, and I was so excited to learn all these new things. So we were rhyming all different things in the class and stuff. And then we went to lunch, and I had a sucker in my lunch. So I started rhyming. Sucker, I did all the words that rhymed with sucker. And then all of a sudden my friend goes, "Ooh, I'm gonna tell." I didn't even know what she was talking about. She ran and told the teacher. The teacher made me stand against the pillar with my nose to it. I cried and I cried and I cried, and I never knew why until I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Oh my gosh, that's why I got in trouble in kindergarten. Nobody told me why.
yeah, 5th and 6th grade, that's when you start to really learn everything. Everything you're not supposed to.
Yeah. So yeah, I just cried and cried and was just devastated that,
Aw.
I was a good girl, never got in trouble. And then, it set me on a road to crime from that point on.
Oh, brother.
So anyway,
boy.
we're going to see here that Paul is actually arrested. He was beaten. He was almost killed. He had to be rushed off to Caesarea, all because of something he didn't do. And so let's go ahead and open up to Acts chapter 24. So let's do kind of like remembering of last week. Why is Paul in prison? What happened last week?
That old Paul.
Because
he's
he
always
said
getting in trouble.
something about the resurrection.
Yeah, so I think they were already mad at him before he got to Jerusalem. And then he goes to Jerusalem and they said, "Oh, everybody's really mad at you. The Jews are really mad at you because they think that you are causing people to go away from the Jewish religion."
Mm-hmm.
So we have an idea. There's a bunch of guys, they're going to shave their heads, they're going to go through a ceremony of cleanliness and a vow, and then you pay for it. You pay their temple tax or whatever it is to do that, and then everybody will see that you really do obey God's laws. Well, it didn't go well because one guy yells out, "Ah!" There he is, and pretty soon we had a mob, and people are beating him, and then he has to go before the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They're all sitting there, and then he says something about, "Well, I'm only here because of the resurrection of Christ," which then got them all in an argument. And then pretty soon there was a plot against his life, and the commander of the army had to whoosh him away. Whoosh him away with a whole army and everything to protect him and get him to Caesarea. And now he is at a trial before Felix. So does anybody have information on this crazy guy Felix before we even read? Because I love the fact that you can actually find him in history.
Just that he was a Roman governor of Judah. And wasn't he second. He was married to the second Agrippus's daughter.
Yeah, like Herod Agrippa, and I think her great grandfather was Herod the Great,
Yes.
who actually tried to have all the boys murdered when Jesus was born. So it's quite a family history there, huh? Anything else you guys know about Felix?
I read that, or heard that he was a slave. He was born a slave,
Yeah.
and that his brother knew, or was a friend with Nero, and somehow Felix became a governor.
He knew somebody who knew somebody,
Right, yeah.
and he became somebody.
He was violent
It's all
and
about who you know.
unstable and unwise.
Yes. So this is who Paul is coming in front of. So let's go ahead, and if somebody wants to read verses 1 through 9, we're just going to read the high priest, elders, and the lawyers' kind of defense, or they would be in offense, or I'm not sure. I'm not a court person, but
5 days later, the high priest Ananias went down to Caesarea with some of the elders and a lawyer named Tertullus, and they brought their charges against Paul before the governor. When Paul was called in, Tertullus presented his case before Felix. We have enjoyed a long period of peace under you, and your foresight has brought about reforms in this nation. Everywhere and in every way, most excellent Felix, we acknowledge this with profound gratitude. But in order not to worry you further, I would request that you be kind enough to hear us briefly. We have found this man to be a troublemaker, stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He is a ringleader of the Nazarene sect and even tried to desecrate the temple, so we seized him. By examining him yourself, you will be able to learn the truth about all these charges we are bringing against him. The other Jews joined in the accusation, asserting that these things were true.
so let's just talk about this motley crew. I mean, they come kind of marching in. I don't know. I love to visualize. Here they had to travel all the way from Jerusalem and then come over to Caesarea. And now they kind of come in marching in. They've got Ananias, the high priest. They've got a bunch of the elders. And they've got this lawyer. His name sounds like Italian dish. Tertullus. But, I just see them all just kind of proud. And they've got their case all together and all that kind of stuff. What do you guys see in that? Like, what are they accusing him of?
Well, the first thing I noticed was that Tertullus is flattering Felix quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
So-
he's a kissy buzz.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was laying it on thick. It's like,
Yeah, he was.
come on, man.
We acknowledge this with profound gratitude. I don't know why I see him in one of those Victorian wigs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Even though it's the wrong time period. But I just see him. It might be all the big words.
Well, they're accusing him of things that are not true, because he knows the law and he knows the religion. He knows he knows Judean customs and Christianity. So they don't know who they're dealing with, really.
Yeah, they don't realize.
They don't know.
He's
They don't know
smarter
how.
than the lawyer.
Yeah.
It's true. They they said he was a troublemaker who was stirring up riots,
Desecrating the temple.
desecrating the temple, which is
And he didn't do any of that.
no. He walked into the temple, I think, and stirring up riots, and it says all over the world. We know, as we've been reading, everywhere he went, he'd just try to be there, and these Jews were following him everywhere, stirring up the riots. So it's actually the opposite.
Right.
So, and then, of course, desecrating the temple, which was wrong. So let's read verses 10 through 21.
When the governor motion for him to speak, Paul replied, I know that for a number of years you have been judge over this nation. You have been a judge over this nation. So I gladly make my defense. You can easily verify that no more than 12 days ago I went up to Jerusalem to worship. My accusers did not find me arguing with anyone at the temple, or stirring up a crowd in the synagogues, or anywhere else in the city. And they cannot prove to you the charges that they are now making against me. However, I admit that I worship the God of our fathers as a follower of the way, which they call a sect. I believe everything that agrees with the law and that is written in the prophets. And I have the same hope in God as these men, that there will be a resurrection of both the righteous and the wicked. So I strive always to keep my conscience clear before God and man. After an absence of several years, I came to Jerusalem to bring my people gifts for the poor and to present offerings. I was ceremonially clean when they found me in the temple courts doing this. There was no crowd with me, nor was I involved in any disturbance. But there are some Jews from the province of Asia who ought to be here before you and bring charges if they have any against me. Or these who are here should state what crime they found in me when I stood before the Sanhedrin, unless it was this one thing I shouted as I stood in their presence. It is concerning the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial before you today.
Okay, right there. So, he kind of defends himself on all accounts. What do you guys see in that? Like,
He proved himself to be faithful to the law by doing that purification.
yeah.
So
And,
it's-
yeah, and he didn't even, I mean, to go into the temple, he did have to do the purification, but he didn't have to jump through all the hoops
No.
with Christ, but he did it anyway for their benefit.
Through this whole statement right here, you know, in a nutshell, he's saying that they got nothing.
Yeah.
He's telling Felix they got nothing.
And he's also telling him that there's some Jews from the province of Asia.
Which
and I
is-
wonder how far away that is. Like you were saying, they were just following him.
Yeah, that's where he was when he was, isn't that Thessalonica and Ephesians, you know, where the Ephesians are, Ephesus. Isn't that all from the province of Asia? I think so. So I think they've been following him since wherever, I can't remember what town it was where we first saw them get really upset, and then they seem to have followed him town to town to town to town, and then all the way back to Jerusalem.
It reminds me of It's a Wonderful Life when Jimmy Stewart's standing there and his youngest son says, "Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse you for what? I burped." You know what I mean? They're just so annoying.
They're just, yeah.
Constantly at him. It's like they have no reason to be at him because he didn't do anything.
Well, they obviously have
They're like little
Satan,
kids following you everywhere.
Satan's, you know, trying to
Oh,
stop
yeah.
Paul.
Oh yeah.
You were going to say something too.
Sorry.
Oh, well, Paul knew that he had the truth on his side, so
Yeah.
he didn't really need to worry about that,
Yeah.
about telling the truth or presenting the truth.
Yeah.
Mm. You can be confident when you're telling the truth.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, he was telling it to corrupt people.
Doesn't matter. You're just kind of throwing, what is that? Throwing your pearls into swine or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
What else do you guys see there?
Well, he says in 16, he says, "So I strive always to keep my conscience clear before God and man." It's almost like he's saying that to them. It's like, your conscience clear?
Yeah. Oh,
I'm sure your
I didn't
conscience
think
isn't
about
clear.
that. Yeah. I didn't
Because you're
think
trying to,
about
run me through the ringer, and
Yeah.
I have no problem between my conscience and God and man.
He's building
Yeah.
up to something.
Oh yeah.
that. That's a really good, something we can take away from that is that, stay with the truth. Keep your conscience clear before God, and no matter what is going on out there, at least we are, clear with God.
State the facts and just the facts.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't abound on anything.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was a follower of the way,
Yeah.
and what he said you call a cult.
Yeah. Is that what a sect is? I was trying to think what a sect is.
It's a certain group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Nazarene sect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they didn't care for. I called it a cult.
Oh.
Which they called a cult. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Wow, that's awesome. What verse do you have the word cult?
But I admit that I follow the way which they call a cult. That's 14 for me.
Okay.
And then he admitted or proclaimed that he believed in the resurrection of the righteous and unrighteous.
Okay. Yeah. So they're calling it a cult because what is it about Christianity that is making the Jewish people so upset, the ones that haven't turned to Christ? Because there are a bunch of Jewish people that have turned to Christ and following him. In fact, majority of them are Jewish, especially here in Jerusalem, and Paul's Jewish. But what is upsetting what is it? What's the...
Maybe their idea of what the Messiah is supposed to be is to what it's proven to be. I mean, he was supposed to be presented, or they believed he would be presented as a great warrior politician. Yeah. And then we have Jesus, who's neither of those things. Well, I'd call him a good politician.
Yeah. Yeah, but he didn't fit the mold.
The mold, no.
Yeah.
I think they knew that if they lost their people, that there wouldn't be anybody paying money to them to the temple.
Mm-hmm.
If Paul is preaching, you don't need...
And I get a little fuzzy off of you.
Lots of fuzzies around here because we have 2 cats and a dog. I'm thinking that they know if these people were to follow Jesus, they wouldn't need them anymore.
Right.
Why would they go to the temple? He's saying Jesus is the way, the only way to
And,
get to God. So you don't need
To
the
follow all the
rituals
rules.
and all the laws
Yeah.
because Jesus came to conquer the law
Mm-hmm.
and to set people free
Yeah.
from being so burdened down with having to go through all of the hoops, basically.
Yeah.
And so they like the hoops because that's their cup of tea and that's where they're getting their money. So
I didn't think about the
if
money.
Paul gets all these people to, it's always about money.
Money, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about money.
Money and power.
Yep. And so they're going to lose their money. They're going to lose their power. Why wouldn't they want to get rid of Paul?
Well, and if there's...
He's speaking boldly.
If you could
for
go
Jesus.
straight through Jesus to God, then you don't need all these religious leaders.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope.
Huh.
That's why they're trying to do away with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and read the next little section here. Let's just read all the way to the end, 22 to 27.
Then Felix, who was well acquainted with the way, adjourned the proceedings. When Lysias, the commander, comes, he said, I will decide your case. He ordered the centurion to keep Paul under guard, but to give him some freedom and permit his friends to take care of his needs. Several days later, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish. He sent for Paul and listened to him as he spoke about faith in Christ Jesus. As Paul talked about righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come, Felix was afraid and said, That's enough for now. You may leave. When I find it convenient, I will send for you. At the same time, he was hoping that Paul would offer him a bribe, so he sent for him frequently and talked with him. When 2 years had passed, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, but because Felix wanted to grant a favor to the Jews, he left Paul in prison.
2 years. And we can basically say that this was the 2 years that a lot of our Bible was written. You know, God doesn't waste anything. I I know when he goes to Rome, he's also there for quite a while and writes some stuff from Rome. But, some of these letters that we read and we treasure came from these times that he had to be in chains or just sit and wait.
I think on this section right here, I think Felix was fond of it all.
Yeah.
Because people that you don't like, you're not going to give them freedom to roam around. You're not going to give them freedom for their friends to come visit them and tend to them, to their needs, to be able to wash and to be able to eat. And to be able to probably have the freedom to eat whatever he's usually eating.
Yeah.
Or to converse with him. Visitation. I mean, he was
I
like
think he
being
knew
very...
he was innocent.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think he knew that he was innocent, but
And maybe he didn't want to repeat what happened in the court with Jesus.
It kind of sounds like that. Yeah, let me wash my hands of it.
that's probably exactly what he didn't
So
want.
he's not going to turn him over to the Jewish people because of what happened there. Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
Well, and his wife is Jewish, which is interesting because she is Herod the Great's great-granddaughter and Herod Agrippa's daughter. So she's part of that crazy family that, had so much going on.
This is showing that Drusilla was Felix's third wife, daughter of Herod Agrippa. At age 15, she married Azizus, king of Emesa, but deserted him for Felix a year later.
So that's another thing, that they were both married before, and they divorced their spouses so that they could be together. So they got a whole thing going on
She left
here.
her religion too.
Oh.
And it says her son, also named Agrippa, died in the eruption of Vesuvius, AD 79.
Yeah, she actually, what is that big eruption? What's it called?
Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah.
Pompeii.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Vesuvius and
Yes.
Pompeii,
So I talked about that on one of the videos.
You actually can research that and then see all of the people who've been kind of frozen in time because they were covered in the ash and died like that. And one of those might be her, which
Or
is
her son.
Yeah.
her and her son. Both her and her son were killed in that.
Oh, it didn't show that.
It was in some of the
It
stuff I
says
looked
Yeah.
up.
her son also Agrippa.
I read that
died in the
somewhere.
eruption of
Probably in
Vesuvius.
a commentary somewhere.
Yeah, she
Wow.
also died because
Sucked
they
to be
know
her.
exactly the
And-
day
and her son.
that she died because
Oh,
it was
wow.
that eruption.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
crazy.
That's scary.
The other thing, and I'll put some of the stuff in the description, some of the videos, is you can look up Caesarea and see exactly where Paul kind of was tried and the streets that he would have walked. You can see all the ancient stuff still there today, so I'll put some of those in there. There's a lot of history. The best part is these characters that we're coming up to actually have a lot of history written about them separate from the Bible. So you can actually get to know all their personalities and stuff, which is really fun. Because then you kind of see this Felix guy and Drusilla sitting there, and they keep asking him to come back too.
For 2 years.
2 years so I feel like they probably came close to being Christian themselves. I would think that they never quite.
Well, I think
We're
it was
convinced.
because he was expecting him to bribe him
Yeah.
to let him go.
Yeah, but do you think they were also interested in?
Yeah, because he would have been, Felix would have been familiar with the way
Yeah.
and the teachings.
It does say that he wanted to be bribed, but for
Well,
them
in
to
the-
keep bringing him in to chat with them, is it just for the bribe,
In
or
the-
is it?
I
In
don't
the
know.
footnotes in 24-25, it says Felix was afraid. It says, hearing of righteousness, self-control, and the judgment, Felix looked at his past life and was filled with fear. He had a spark of sincerity and concern. When I find it convenient, lust, pride, greed, and selfish ambition made it continually inconvenient to change.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about those three things that that Paul talked about. He talked about righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come. So why is it important that he hits those subjects? righteousness. Why was it important that he talked to them about righteousness?
Because they were not standing, either one of them, Felix or his wife, in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
They were very unrighteous by doing
Uh-huh.
what they did.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to the gospel message.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what Paul preached all through all the different towns. It's almost, I see, what is his name from Living Waters?
Oh my gosh.
Ray Comfort.
Yes. Man.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
not remember.
was gone for a minute. But
Yeah.
Ray Comfort, he always does that same thing where he actually shows people their sin, because he can't show them the with an illness, he can't show you the remedy or the cure for it, because you're not going to care about the cure or the remedy
Because
if
they
you-
don't think they have a problem.
if you don't think you have a problem.
Right.
But if you show a person the x-rays and you show them the tests that say, look, you have cancer, and I have this shot that will take away your cancer,
Yeah.
then you're going to be like, give me that shot. That is gold.
Yep.
So in order for somebody to realize what the cross means and what Jesus' sacrifice was and all of that, they have to know that they have sinned.
Right.
That's like a critical part to the message. And then, oh, go ahead.
So you're saying here that Felix doesn't really recognize what he's done?
Well, I don't.
Or he
According to-
has, but he doesn't.
According to the footnotes, it's talking about
Mm-hmm.
that he was struggling with lust, pride, greed, and selfish ambition, which made it continually inconvenient to change. Like he had all of this power and money and prestige, and he was greedy, he was selfish, he was self-centered. So in his mind, why should I change when I have all of this? It's not like a poor person who's struggling to do better and they're like, I just need a chance. Well, then Jesus comes along and converts them and changes their life, and then they want so badly that they're willing to, when they hit rock bottom, it's easier to go up. He's already established, and he doesn't want to change, because if he changes, then he's gonna have a conscience, then he's gonna have to give up his power, his greed, his lust,
Yeah.
all of the worldly things.
Well, that-
Felix is gonna lose.
Isn't that why Jesus said it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than a camel to enter the eye of a needle?
Yep.
In other words, it's not impossible for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, but it's harder because
It's harder. Yeah.
he doesn't see a need. Like, well, all my greed and all of this has actually gained me power. It's gained me, these things.
Yep. And that's why so many people
I can
struggle.
see that, yeah. I can
People
see
have-
that because if you've got everything you've ever wanted or desired and you're happy,
Mm-hmm.
what more can there be?
Then
Well,
you
they
don't
would
really
say-
need Jesus
those
until you
people-
get to Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Those people say they're happy, but we all know they're really not deep down
Right.
inside
they don't have that
happy,
joy.
because they still have that hole in their heart that only Jesus can fill. So they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm happy, I've got everything, I'm on top of the world, my 401k is completely amazing, I've got plenty of money, great job, amazing family, amazing friends, great house, great cars, but they still are missing Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think
Yeah,
one
well-
of the ministers said that rejection through delay is still rejection.
Ooh.
So there's no better time to accept Jesus into your life than right now.
Yep.
Because you're
Yeah.
not promised tomorrow.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, by
none of
putting
us-
it off and putting it
Nope.
off and putting it off. Wow, yeah.
And also, people have the fear of what other people are going to say. I still deal with that. If I bring this up, are they going to flip out on me? That's a big fear of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I struggle with. And he had the whole Jewish community wanting to flip out on him if he sided with Paul.
Yeah.
Not really get him in trouble with the Romans.
It's true, because at one point it does say that he wanted to grant a favor to the Jews, so he left Paul in prison. So he was obviously trying
When
to
he left.
win
when he
them.
left. Well, and he's trying to drag it along and milk it because he sat there for 2 years with him
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in his little prison area, courtyard, whatever.
Yeah.
So his friends were able to hang out with him for 2 years while they waited and waited. These ding-dongs that followed him around, they probably were having to get bored by now.
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, they're in this foreign town that they're not from.
Mm-hmm.
The goofballs that keep following him,
Yeah.
they had to have went back home at one point and said, "Forget this. Jeez, this is taking forever.
Well, yeah, 2 years.
2 years, I've had enough. I got to go fish and I got to earn
I
a
gotta-
wage for my family and
Gotta
or
go
whatever."
back to the kids.
Well, you know, his mindset was probably, I know I'm going to be in Rome, so I might as well make the best out of it
Yeah,
as possible.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna sit it out and wait
Wait
it out.
up.
yeah, because Jesus told him that he was going to Rome.
So you just have to be patient.
Obviously, he has no fear here.
Mhm.
He just stated the facts and hung out with his friends for 2 years till
Well, Caesarea is a
what's his
pretty
name
town.
shows up.
I mean, I know he's in prison, but maybe he had a window or something, you know, and it said he had
Of course,
some
he has
freedom.
Festus.
So maybe he could look out at the beautiful ocean and
And he had the ear of the leaders of religious communities, so
Yeah.
Oh,
He wasn't being
yeah.
tortured or
Political
anything,
people.
so why not? You know?
Yeah. He did have the ear of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Plus he's writing his letters.
Yeah, he had Club Med and nobody even realized it.
Yeah.
God made sure he took care of him.
Yeah. could have been worse in a different town.
Mhm.
But yeah, even just realizing that, you know, if you're thinking about it, you're like, God called me to do something. I'm dying to go to Rome. I'm dying to do this. And then all of a sudden you're locked up for 2 years and you're just stuck waiting. That could be a frustrating place to be in the waiting.
Mhm.
He wasn't frustrated though. Yeah, I think he was just
I
loving
know
it.
he's a great example
He's
of
like,
not being
I'm just
frustrated.
gonna write some letters while I'm sitting here.
Well, and
No better time than the present.
ironically, he just thought he was writing a few letters to the churches to encourage them, and it becomes, here we are 2,000 years later, they're
Yeah.
still here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, little did he know his letters would become published.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
In
awesome.
the
It's really cool.
most sold book ever.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Exactly. Number
Yeah.
one selling
Like
book.
Ain't that the truth?
Wow, you became a famous author and didn't even realize it. So yeah, so those things, you know, he talked to him about were the righteousness, the self-control, probably he and his wife Drusilla, which reminds me of Cruella de Vil or something.
I know, me too. That's the first thing I thought of too.
Well, what were the
I just-
wicked stepsisters?
Anastasia and Drusilla.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
That's the
that.
first thing I thought
The
of.
wicked stepsister was
Cinderella.
Drusilla.
Cinderella. Yeah, her evil stepsisters.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
No wonder one of them was Drusilla.
that's what they did. They did it
Yep.
on purpose, huh?
Yeah, they did. Somebody knew their Bible.
Yeah, somebody did. That's great.
Pull that name out.
But yeah, I mean, he just kept speaking God's truth and His gospel, no matter what. It's just
Yeah.
like, fine, put me in prison, but I'm gonna just keep telling you the truth. And by the way, you need to repent. And by the way, there's gonna be a judgment coming. There is a really good sermon that I listened to today while we were preparing for this, and I didn't share it over because it was so late. But I'm going to put it in the description, and it really breaks down the righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come. And he actually goes and quotes all the verses in the Bible about the two different judgments, the personal judgment that we'll have to go through when we die, and then the world being judged as well.
I
So
think I watched probably the same thing.
yeah, we probably saw the same thing. I saw it today.
The two judgments and the
Yes, that was good.
and the
sermon.
rapture and the
Yeah.
yeah. That
I was
the
like,
one.
I gotta go back and rewatch that and
'Cause I
take
didn't-
notes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that during the 7 years of tribulation there'd still be people saved I didn't know that.
Yeah, they can actually accept Jesus in the midst of it, and a lot of people will turn to the Lord in that time. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's when the
Those
real
are the
come to
fence
Jesus
riders.
meeting happens.
Yeah.
People that were aware and knew but didn't really take it
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, they're all the people that we've all been telling them about Jesus, and they're like, "You're just crazy. You're just crazy." And then when that happens, they're going to go, "Wait a minute, what they said
weren't
was
crazy.
They weren't crazy. Something they said was true."
Mm-hmm.
It's all those seeds we're planting right now.
Yep.
Yeah. So, gosh, anything else you guys see in there that you wanted to talk about? Just really juicy stuff, man. That's what I love about the Bible is it's true, it's real. They have history in history books, by Josephus and some of the Roman documents that document all of these people, and yet it's so juicy. There's so much gossip and all kinds of funny things. You can't make this stuff up, you know.
Yeah.
Let me read this really quick. I did highlight it, so it's got to be good. I think I read it earlier. It was talking about Paul's talk with Felix. Became so personal that Felix grew frightened. Felix, like Herod Agrippa, had taken another man's wife. Paul's words were interesting until they focused on righteousness, self-control, and judgment to come. Many people will be glad to discuss the gospel with you as long as it doesn't touch their lives too personally. When it does, let's see, I should have brought my glasses here. When it does, some will resist or run, but this is what the gospel is all about. God's power to change lives. The gospel is not effective until it moves from principles to doctrine into life-changing dynamic. When someone resists or runs from your witness, you have undoubtedly succeeded in making the gospel personal. So actually, when you've talked to somebody and they actually pull back and get offended, you've succeeded. You have made it personal, and it's hitting something, something in their heart. With that, we're on to next week, chapter 25. We're going to meet some new really cool characters. Festus, King Agrippa, and my favorite is, I think it's King Agrippa's wife. So just stay around. There is some fun stuff coming. But until then, and until that next video, we'll see you next week. And thank you guys for joining us. Tell us in the comments if you loved anything about this passage. Tell us if you're watching the videos that we post in the description. We love to hear from you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week. Shalom, dear friends.